How's it going, guys? Welcome to vlog number 2. Today I'll be talking about how I got into the business, and with that, let's go right through it. So I came from a military background. I was in the National Guard, Army National Guard, and I went to Egypt. I was deployed for 9 months, and while I was in Egypt, I had this thought that for the longest time I wanted to be a professional wrestler. I tried to join a school when I was about 16 years old. Never really attempted, but I tried. I asked my parents, and they were like, "Oh, who's gonna drive you? That place is too far." So, they didn't really support my professional wrestling journey like they did my amateur wrestling for high school and all that stuff. Because I did that prior to joining the military. So I was in Egypt. I was stationed at a little area by the Red Sea. That was the Moses crossing site in Nuweiba in the Sinai. And I was in a tower, and at this point we couldn't bring phones into the tower. We couldn't do anything. So all I could do was think and look to make sure that nothing was happening out between the Israelis and the Egyptians. So on my free time there, I was just thinking, what I wanted to do whenever I got back home. And I decided that, of course, that didn't happen. I was looking for wrestling schools, but I couldn't find any close enough. So I ended up going back home eventually, and I basically bummed it for the whole year. I didn't have a job. I was going out and just having fun with my cousins and stuff like that, going to clubs and bars and stuff like that. And eventually, my dad said, it's time for you to grow up. It's time for you to start looking for jobs because, you're not making any money, but you're spending money. And eventually, I got a job. I started working at the Guest Store, and a few months in, I started looking for wrestling schools again. And I found this one wrestling school called Tugboat Taylor's wrestling school. The school had closed down, but I contacted the former owner of the school, which was Tugboat Taylor's son, Chaz Taylor. I contacted him. He left me on red, and then I figured he was busy, so maybe I just give it a few days. Then I noticed he never got back to me, and then I messaged him saying that if he didn't want to help aspiring wrestlers anymore, it's okay, I understand. And I guess he felt kind of bad. And then he told me about a school in Katy, Texas, ran by Colony Soto, or for me to go to Booker T's, which is the school that I wanted to go to when I was 16 years old. I lived in Katy, Texas, and Colony School was like not even 20 minutes from where I lived, so I chose to go to Colony School. I ended up going to Colony School, DZW. It was a promotion and a wrestling school. The moment I walked in there, I fell in love with the whole thing. It was like I felt like I belonged there. I felt like I was family, like I knew them my whole life. Everybody was nice. They wanted you to learn very, very slowly. That way you got it. Colony was very, very good with the step-by-step, basics of the whole thing. And that's how I pretty much got introduced to it through Colony Soto. And he taught us how to dismantle the ring, set the ring up. He taught us how to advertise for the shows. He taught us a lot of the stuff, a lot of the basics. And but for the most part, I was mainly a trainee, security guard, and ring crew. Being having to put up the rings for the shows and everything. But when it came to the training, as awesome as Colony was, and as much as everybody else was able to learn and pick up from his teachings, it was very, very hard for me to pick up anything that he was trying to teach me. He would try over and over and over again, but I was so uncoordinated, and I just couldn't, do the stuff that he felt I could do. Like, he had so much hope, and he would always tell me, he's like, you have potential, but it's like, whenever you take a step forward, you take 2 steps back. Because I would have days where I did really good, and then I have a lot more days where I did really, really bad. And those good days were a lot more rare than the bad days were. To the point where he could teach us a spot, and a week before I probably did it correct, but now this week I act like I don't know how to do it anymore. You know what I mean? Like that's, you know, and that's unacceptable, because if you can't pick up the basics, if you can't pick up, you know, how to protect your the person you're working with, then, you know, there's no room for you in this business, because at the end of the day, you're trying to put each other over, and you're trying to make sure that you guys can work safely. And that's what the training is there for. The training is there to teach you how to work safe, not to be too crazy like the backyarders, and so that you can, you know, just know how to do things, how to do the footwork, how to, you know, how to do the moves, you know, and how to do things correctly and at the right time. So for the first year, you know, it was, you know, just me being uncoordinated as fuck, not being able to do anything. The second year I started getting it a little bit, but then again, the 2 steps back, I would act like I don't know how to do shit. Then the third year, it just became very, very, you know, chore-ish for me, because there comes a point in your little journey that you're a trainee for so long and you haven't done a show because you haven't, you know, progressed enough to get on a show, that now it becomes a chore. You're like, it was fun the first year, maybe the second year to train and everything, but eventually it becomes a chore, because now, you know, although you still want it, although the fire is still in there for you, it's been so long and you don't know when that show is gonna come. So, and back then I would always tell myself that, you know, I was ready. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. But let's be honest here. You know, I wasn't ready for that. You know, I wasn't ready to be on those shows. You know, just because you feel like you can do it doesn't mean that you can. You know, at the end of the day, you are where you need to be right now. You know what I mean? Meaning that if you aren't on shows, that's because that's where you should be at the moment. You know what I mean? You know, you gotta take your time, walk before you can run. So, you know, and at the end of the day, you gotta learn how to take your time and, you know, talk to your trainer, try to see what you can fix. Because at the end of the day, your trainer's not gonna put you on shows if he doesn't think you're ready for it. Because at the end of the day, you're a representation of your school, your trainer, and all that. When you go to shows, they're gonna ask you who are you trained by, and you don't want to do something negative or mess up on a show and then tell them, oh, I was trained by so and so. You know. So eventually, around I think it was year 3, we started going to these seminars, you know, with known talent like Chase Owens, Jazz, Funaki, you know, just a bunch of names, you know. And it was weird because every time I would go to these seminars, I would pick up things and I would actually do really good according to my trainer. And but then when we would go back to our regular training throughout the week, we'll do really bad. And it was one of those things where, you know, the 1 step forward, 2 steps back. You know, I do really good for a moment, and I, you know, end up doing really, really horrible again. Eventually, you know, my trainer decided to put me on a show because there was a call out and he didn't have anybody to fill in for one of the shows. I ended up doing a squash match. And then the pandemic started. You know, and I'm not sure if I was supposed to do more shows later on or if that was just a rumor. But I was being told that, you know, there was a plan that, you know, got, you know, cut short because of the pandemic. And then nothing happened. By the time we started running shows again, you know, it was already, you know, a year. And by then, I'm pretty sure I would have had to be retrained all over again anyway. Being a part of the show, even if it was a squash match for 2 or 3 minutes, you know, it felt really, really good to have a crowd behind you, to hear fans, to, you know, be a part of it, you know. And that's what really motivated me to, you know, to keep doing this, even though it's taken me this long, you know what I mean? So we ended up, you know, going through the pandemic, shows started again, and around this time I had already decided that I was going to be moving to New York. So I ended up doing, you know, I ended up being security for the shows for the remainder of the time that I was there, and then I moved to New York. So I contacted Johnny Rod right before I left Texas, about a good 2 weeks before, and he was actually the first place that I actually, you know, went to. I went to his wrestling club about probably about, you know, 9, 10 years ago now. And I ended up, talking to him about wrestling. I wanted to, learn to wrestle for 3 months, just to learn stuff. But he said that it made no sense for me to join because at the end of the day, I'm not going to get it all in 3 months. And, nothing ended up happening. So I went back to Texas, and obviously, as I grew up, I ended up going to DZW in Texas. But when I decided to move back to New York, I ended up going back to his wrestling club, and that's when I actually joined. I paid what I had to pay off, and I started to train with him. And as I started to train with him, it seemed like everything that Colony was trying to teach me was different than everything that he's trying to teach me. It was basically the same stuff, just in different ways. And I felt like I caught on to everything that he was teaching. Like, it was like I was learning everything, within 2 weeks that I couldn't learn in so long. And it's sad to say that, right? Because like I said, I have so many friends in the business that were taught by Colony that actually do really good. But it's sad to say that sometimes that's just how it is. Some trainers aren't able to train everybody. Sometimes students pick up from different types of trainers. And that's why seminars are so good, because you learn from different people. But at the same time, I always give Colony credit and DZW credit, because they got me during the years that I was really horrible. When I was uncoordinated, I was scared to do bumps. I was scared to do everything. By the time I got to Johnny's school, I was at least able to do a form of a bump. I was able to, do a little bit, and all they had to do was fix it a little bit to where I can do it correctly. And the training is 100% different than Colony's, where Colony's is very step-by-step process, and they teach you how to do everything step-by-step. Johnny's, they teach you step-by-step, but at the same time, it's taught by the students. All the students. It's like a wheel, you know what I mean? Like, they teach you, it's not the trainer that's always teaching you, it's the students. Once you learn something, you pass it on to the next one. That's basically how the training is. He teaches us monkey see, monkey do. You do the spot that the person just did in front of you, and you try to do it exactly how they do it. And if you mess up, you do it again. And if you mess up, you do it again. If you mess up 3 times, you go to the back of the line, you wait until it's your turn again, and you try again. And that's the drills. That's where the drills come in. And I feel like that's the only part that was really, really different between DZW and now, is that we have a lot more drills at Johnny's club, whereas with Colony's, it's a little bit more step by step. He teaches you how to do everything, and then eventually he'll show you how to put everything together once he sees that you can, do things. So basically, the difference between the two is that, DZW's training was a little bit more slow pace and, step by step, whereas Johnny's school is very, very drill heavy. Everything is, fast pace, but also steady pace, and, to where you can get it, or at least get a form of it, so you can do it right the next time. And there's benefits between either or, whether you do it the DZW way or whether you do it the WUW way, because at the end of the day, I learned better with the WUW way because of the fact that I have ADD, and it takes me a while to learn things. So being able to do it over and over and over and over and get those repetitions, that's what I always felt that I was missing. But once I started getting that, that's when I started progressing. And coming up soon, I'll start posting a little bit of more stuff so you guys can see my progression as a student, and you guys can have a little bit more insight on whether or not you guys want to join this path also. It's a very fun path. You just can't expect everything to be given to you right away, because at the end of the day, like I said, you got to walk before you can run. Both those schools are, both these schools are really, really good schools. I recommend them both, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's on you on whether you want to apply yourself to either, you know what I mean? Or any school, not just DZW or WUW, any school. You gotta apply yourself, and you gotta be willing to learn everything that they're teaching you. And you also cannot think you know it all, because once you think you know it all, you're gonna be proven wrong every single time. DZW has put out really good talent for the time that it's been around. The past, I think almost 6 years now, about 5 or 6 years. And WUW has been around, for a really, really long time before I was even born. So they put out a lot of great stuff. They have Hall of Famers under the school's banner. Not just Johnny, but the Dudley Boys, and so on and so on and so on. DZW comes from the Tugboat Taylor and the Johnny Valentine lineage, other Hall of Famers. So, like I said, doesn't matter what school you go to, as long as you go in there with an open mind, and you want to learn and you're coachable. Again, even that's even false, because there are some crappy schools out there. But I'm blessed enough to be able to say that I've been a part of 2 great schools, and I'm blessed to have been a part of DZW, and I am blessed to now be a part of World of Unbreakable Wrestling's training. I love everybody there. I loved everybody in DZW too, and I can't wait to see where the rest of this journey leads me. If you're looking for a school in your area, I recommend you do your research and look up, the talent that have come out of the school and all that stuff. That way you have an idea of, where you would want to go, and that way if it's the real deal or not. At the end of the day, the only way that you can do this is if you do it. You know what I mean? Put in the effort, put in the work, and it's better to try than not try at all. That's it, guys. That's my introductory into the business. I'm still training. I'm still learning new things. I'm still learning how to pick up the spots, and I'm on my way. So I'm very happy with my progression right now. I've been told that I've been doing really good for the time I've been here, and that's a blessing to me. So like I said, guys, if you want to do this, you're gonna do it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, God bless you guys. And if I missed anything, I'll be sure to say it in the other videos. God bless you guys. Talk to you later.